Hello everybody, my name is Daniel Hill and I am here with Helen Walker. Hello
Hi,
Helen.
Dan.
How long have we known each other?
Oh, goodness. What, 4, 5 years, is
Something
it?
like that. Facebook friends, Facebook buddies,
Yeah, yeah.
and related purely because of emotional freedom techniques, and that is also called EFT, and it's one of those law of attraction things where you end up following people, or it's just something happens.
Yeah.
And I recognised Helen being quite advanced in EFT from the perspective of that she was often going to. Have you been to America twice? And you've trained with Gary Craig twice.
No, I did Gary Craig's master's program in 2007. So
Uh-huh.
that was my trip to America then.
Yeah.
And I've taught EFT in America, 3 times now. Tina Craig, Gary's daughter, asked me over in 2011, I think, was the first time
Right. Yeah.
to teach. Yeah, so.
Yeah. So I remember that, and I know that you've also done an interview with Gary as well, haven't you?
Yeah, yeah.
So you have to be pretty high up in EFT or have a good knowledge of EFT and an ability to be able to be in that position. So I knew that she just wasn't somebody who'd just done a basic practitioner. She had a level of understanding.
I've been doing EFT for a very, very long time.
And on yourself for a long time.
And on myself. Well, on myself, and that was the starting point, Dan.
It is for all of us, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've got
absolutely.
issues, we want to get over them, we've tried other things. Hey,
Yeah.
this thing called EFT, this tapping thing seems to sort of help here, it works.
That's it. That's it.
And then when we get results, the ones who are really passionate about it, then are interested in helping others.
That's the bottom line. That's exactly what happened to me. I spent several years learning EFT and using it for myself. And then was so fascinated by it and so blown away by it that I thought I have to take this further. Became a practitioner, ultimately became a trainer, and that's what I do.
And you've seen plenty of clients, haven't you, over the years? You've had
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I started out obviously again like most people as a very general practitioner. So I've dealt with all sorts of issues, all sorts of emotional issues, physical issues too. But now I specialise in social anxiety. That's my focus.
What are some of the I was going to use the word miracles that have happened when you've worked with people, because it's sometimes it does feel like a miracle when you're working with people, because people, not all clients will change radically quickly, but there is quite a high percentage who will get a lot of transformation within a short amount of time. So what are some of the positive testimonials that you could tell us?
Well, it's lovely to be able to talk about things that have happened really quickly, and as you say, they almost appear to be like miracles. The downside of that is the fact that a lot of people then come expecting miracles.
Yeah.
And we don't want that to happen.
That was my personal experience. I wasn't getting better quickly, and I thought, what a load of rubbish.
Yeah.
And my meditation teacher did EFT on me in 2002, and it didn't work. So when I did it again 3 years later, I was going, oh, not this again.
Yeah.
This doesn't work.
Yeah. It's for some people, absolutely. I've had physical situations, the guy who the physiotherapist has said to him, you're never going to be able to move your arm any further than that position. You do a few rounds of EFT and the guy can reach the ceiling, And I've had, somebody who's been off work for 18 months, repeated bouts of depression, struggling to stay in their job. And again, you do one session and it is a miracle. They're able to go back to work and the problem doesn't arise again. So those do happen and they're wonderful when they do. But, for a lot of people, it's a steady progression, working on their stuff. The nice thing about EFT is that when you compare it with other things, it does tend to be an awful lot quicker. But, if you're coming to it and you're thinking, hey, one session and I'm going to be fixed, we need to do something to change that perception.
Yeah, it's very important. It's a very pertinent point, because sometimes I will get clients and the frustration is I often sell them a 5-session package because it's clear it's not going to clear in one session. They can still have one session, and then I say they can buy into the remaining 4 sessions after session 1.
Right.
And a lot will do that. But some people are coming with quite chronic issues. And I say for non-chronic issues, 5 sessions.
Yeah.
And we can do session by session, but non-chronic issues, 5 sessions. But some people are really chronic, and then they 10 sessions, 15 sessions, 20 sessions, it might well take that. And then that's an investment of, well, how much is that going to cost me to get it? But it really is an investment. If you could go in and have a private operation on your brain and extract that thing in your brain and cut it out so it's not going to be there anymore, and they said, well, there's an 80 to 90% chance that it's going to be radically reduced or gone within that time. We can't say that within EFT, but we can't tell people we've got a cure or whatever, but we can be honest and say, in my clinic, it's 80 to 90% usually is radically cleared up within this time frame. And after you get huge amounts of experience like you and I have, I've probably seen close to 1,200 clients in 8.5 years. You get to understand, okay, this is that, whatever. This is going to take this amount of time. That's going to take that amount of time. And I'm very honest. I mean, there's a guy recently. I was very honest, and I said, look, this is going to take 20 sessions. And it really was in my head, because where he was, and I'm going to introduce the Enneagram because we're going to talk about that in a second, where he was on the Enneagram, I could tell was in a really unhealthy place.
Yeah.
And he wanted to be in a healthy place, and you're not going to shift from there to there just like that. I said within a few sessions he might have a little bit more sanity, but he was suicidal, and he was in a very, very bad place. But there's suicidal and there's suicidal, and this guy was running so much stuff that it was just absolutely obvious that it wasn't going to be cleared within a few sessions. So I then pre-framing that it's going to take maybe 20 to be able to have a level of sanity, so he won't be feeling and thinking like that. But ultimately, that it will be a commitment, and to expect to invest in it long term. I had to have about 30 sessions before I felt a lot better in health and mental patterns. And then after that, of course, I trained in it. So I've done, like you, masses of work on myself. So it's not just like 30 sessions and I'm here. It's been years of working on myself again and again. Book on my coaching shelf called The Healing Code, which is actually, which has tapping in it. But it's TFT. Thought field therapy, of which EFT came from. He recovered from a degenerative form of multiple sclerosis, but it took him 8 years. And if we're looking at illness as in states of consciousness, here's a book here called Messages from the Body, The Psychological Meaning, which is $129, which I use with every client who comes to see me.
Got that one.
You've got this one. Each dis-ease, whether it's a physical or a mental issue going on, is a state of consciousness. And we're looking with EFT to shift someone's consciousness.
I mean, like I said to you, I specialise in social anxiety. The reason for that is because I suffered from social anxiety for years and years and years. EFT and the Enneagram has been the reason why I have a recovery from social anxiety. But because that's my specialty now, people contact me and they say, oh, how long did it take you to get over social anxiety? How many sessions will I need? No. And it's like, look, I have been working on myself for years. I guess you and I would both agree, Dan, that what we've done is we've had to meander along trying to find solutions. The place we're in now is we're able to put together the solutions that we've found and actually say to somebody else, look, here is a solution to X, Y, or Z. It may not be the right solution for everybody, but here's one that we know absolutely works. And the whole idea of how long is this going to take, I said, well, if you look at anxiety, any form of anxiety, it exists on a spectrum. So as you say, it could be very simplistic at one end and it can be extremely complex at the other. And it depends on where you are on that spectrum as to potentially how long it might take or how much you have to unravel, shall we say, before you get to your solution.
I often say to people, when you stop coming when you don't need it anymore. But you might want to keep coming because you're benefiting. There's a difference between need and benefit. And often the clients who come and see us are in a place of need. They don't come because, oh, I fancy some life coaching or fancy some EFT, They've got an issue and they need to get over it. Now, I will have my longest term clients coming up to nearly 50 sessions. And you look at that, well, that's nearly £3,000. Yeah, but I spent 15 grand on my brain doing all this stuff and more, I had counselling for years before that, for 4 years. How much did that cost me? It wasn't that expensive, to be honest, but it was still pricey. It was still £1,000 a year, I think.
Yeah.
So because it was £20 a week, and I had it every week. That's £1,000 times 4 years. So that's £4,000. Well, and I didn't really shift. And then I had paid sessions. I had 30 paid sessions, it was. I had an outcome. And my outcome was that I wanted to be well and have a sound and sane mind.
Yeah.
And if you're working towards an outcome, it's irrelevant. It's like doing up a house. Well, how long is this going to take? So if I bought this old house and it's falling down, how long is this going to take to do it up? Well, we can look at it and go, well, I imagine this is going to... But what happens when you're doing up an old house? Some things go easy. Well, that was quite easy. Did the stairs quite easy. And you fit in the bathroom and it's, didn't realise this was here. This is going to take
chin
longer.
Scratching, yeah.
Yeah, but if you have an outcome, like Dermot O'Connor, who healed himself of multiple sclerosis, it took him 8 years. He had an outcome. That's it. So again, it's about personal responsibility. So if a client comes and how long is it going to take, I'm always very honest and will say, I think it's going to take maybe longer than 5, but buy into a 5. It's not going to be over in 1, and see where you are after 5 sessions. And often that happens, and I've built enough rapport, and we've got enough shift and enough change in those 5 sessions that usually they buy more, and because they realise the benefits of it. And they might only be able to afford to come once every 3 weeks, once every 4 weeks. It doesn't matter, because as you know, the shifts that can occur within one session, the repercussions of that are so positive, and there's all different healing aspects that will come up. That next month they come back and their consciousness has shifted within a month, and there's something else that's arisen to the top that we need to work on
as well. And I would imagine you have the same experience as me, which is that, let's say somebody does come to you for 5 sessions, and as you say, they have an outcome in mind, and you achieve that outcome. They then go away, but then, as you say, when another desire, need, outcome appears for them, then they're going to come back and say, okay, can we move on to the next stage, and it's a progression that way. And
it usually is need, but sometimes I will have clients who will say, well, I'm benefiting from this and my life is just getting better. I don't need it anymore. I've overcome bipolar. My client in Nevada, who I've done Skype sessions with, and they're online. She'd seen a psychiatrist and psychologist for years and was diagnosed with bipolar. Well, she was... we need to get onto the Enneagram, but she was an Enneagram type 5 with a full wing. She was on five meds for, that's an American term, medications, pharmaceutical drugs for the state of consciousness that she was in, which thus was creating the bipolar. Yeah. And that was basically huge amounts of fears and traumas and various things that happened that we bust through in 5 sessions. Now, after 5 sessions, she went back to a doctor and said, I don't want to be taking this anymore. I don't feel I need it. So she went off. She was no longer taking an antipsychotic, no longer taking an antidepressant. She was taking something for something else, and I think another medication to help with all the 4 drugs, because all the 4 drugs were causing enough problems. So that's where she was. Now, from that, let's go on and let's talk a bit about the Enneagram.
Okay.
And when was the first time you started to learn about the Enneagram? Because I know it was from some of my Facebook posts and some of the stuff that I was putting out there.
Well, yeah, so I had an awareness of the Enneagram because I kept seeing this symbol being shown on Facebook and on the internet, and really? I have to say I was very resistant to it. I just looked at it and I thought, I don't know what this is, but I just don't like the look of it. But it was in my awareness. And then a friend of mine went on an Enneagram course, and I was just curious as to what she had learned. And she told us about this book called The Wisdom of the Enneagram, which you and I both have. Yeah. And she started sharing some stuff, and I just thought it was a curiosity, Dan. It looked interesting, because I like personality quizzes and things like that. It just looked like a bit of fun,
And you're a 5, so an investigator and an observer. So
I am indeed, so I observed and I investigated a little bit. But then you posted something on Facebook, and I think what it was somebody who was typically a type 5. And
Eckhart Tolle, possibly?
It might have been, I can't remember, but what I do know was, having played around with the Enneagram and decided that I was probably a type 5, then I saw this video and it just all kind of went together and made perfect sense, and at that point I became hooked.